It seems that every brand nowadays has a super premium super shoe and an everyman super shoe, and sometimes even 3 or 4 options when it comes to the marathon. But is it usually worth the extra dollars? Today, we're going to discuss 2 options from ASICS, the Metaspeed Sky Tokyo versus the Metaspeed Ray. What's up, everybody? I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. If it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of this comparison, but if you do so, I'd sure appreciate it if you come back, watch the full thing when you get a sec, because I put a lot of time and effort into these. Now, disclaimers and disclosures are, I actually bought both of these shoes with my own money. I have received shoes before from ASICS in the past though, and I do anticipate probably in the future, so just to get this out of the way, I'm never paid when I do these reviews. I'm not given talk tracks, talking points. No one watches the videos beforehand, and all thoughts are entirely my own. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of these shoes. Now, both of these are super shoes dedicated towards the marathon, right? As such, that's how we're going to be discussing and comparing them today. But super shoes, right? They're the shoes that you want to wear to go fast. And of course, as runners, we can use these for shorter distance races as well if we so choose. Now, from a price perspective, the Sky Tokyo comes in at $270, which is getting up there for super shoes, but is still within normal ranges. Meanwhile, the Ray comes in at $300, which puts it in that super premium category. That's again, when we're looking at the top end of super shoes from brands, that's about what you would expect. Now, from a specs perspective, both of these are actually pretty crazy, right? With the Sky Tokyo, you've got 40 in the heel, 35 in the forefoot for a 5mm drop. And then with the Ray, you have 39.5 in the heel, 34.5 in the forefoot for a 5mm drop. At least that is what is listed on the spec sheets for both of these shoes on ASICS website. That being said, at least with the Ray, I have seen that a couple of places that have cut it open and looked at it found that it might actually be closer to almost a 9 or 10mm drop. For the Sky Paris, or the Sky Tokyo, I'm actually not sure, but it does feel between the two that the Ray might have a little bit more aggressive drop. Now, from a weight perspective, they're both really light. The Sky Tokyo comes in at 5.6 ounces, which is 159 grams, putting it in, the top end for super shoes as far as being lightweight, but then the Ray is next level. It's 4.6 ounces, 129 grams. So pretty much tied with the Pro Evo 2 from Adidas as like the lightest super shoe on the market. Now, from a fit perspective, the Ray is going to be low volume, true to size lengthwise, and then just narrow and snug throughout. The toe box tapers in a little bit. It's probably the most standard fitting part of it though, but again, low volume. The midfoot is narrow, and the heel, I'd say, is probably narrow to standard. The Tokyo is going to be a little bit more accommodating in its fit for the most part. I would say, like I wrote down here, that it is still a snug midfoot and snug heel, a more standard toe box, a little bit just more spacious overall from a volume perspective. I don't know if I'd call it full narrow. I'd said snug again. Because I would say snug is a good fit. If you're wide-footed, probably not a good shoe for you. But if you have a standard foot, you're not going to feel overwhelmed or overly locked down, right? From an upper perspective, the Ray has the Matrix upper. This thing's insane. It's super lightweight, super breathable. It's almost not there. It's paper thin. You have a non-gusseted tongue, which, to be honest, bunches up a ton and is really annoying. You got the freemium laces. Slight cushion there in the heel, but really this thing is like, you can press it down to just the midsole basically. Like, this thing's insane in terms of how lightweight it is, but that Matrix material is actually very durable, very strong. So I actually expect these to hold up really well because of that. It's just made to be incredibly lightweight, and then you've got very little seams at all. In fact, it might be an entirely seamless upper. It looks like this is mainly pressed, heat pressed or whatever, to get these to bond together. So the upper, crazy breathable. Your feet will be cold in the winter, but it's so insanely lightweight. The Metaspeed Sky Tokyo is going to be the Motion Wrap 3 upper, right? Which is kind of this just super lightweight weave. It is also crazy breathable, right? You have a lot of the same features. It looks like it's heat pressed kind of in the heel. The amount of cushion there in the heel is about the same. It's just that this upper is going to be just a little bit heavier overall than the Ray. Now, the tongue also similarly not gusseted, does seem to be a little bit better though than the Ray's tongue. And it's still crazy breathable. Like, I don't think that it's honestly, they might be about the same level of breathability. It just feels a little bit more structured, right? I mean, I can still pretty much press it down, but the heel does fight me a little bit, right? So I can press that down there. One of my favorite uppers, honestly, as far as super shoes go, I felt like last year's was a little bit baggy. This one I feel like has really, really good lockdown in the midfoot. It's just really dialed in. It's just hard to beat like a Matrix upper like that, but comfortability, the Sky Tokyo is better in my opinion, right? Moving to the midsoles. These are crazy. So you've got the FF Leap, full ATPU FF Leap in the Metaspeed Ray. This thing compresses so much. You can see just all those wrinkles in the midsole. I think that this is gonna have very, very limited durability. If I'm being honest, I think that these will probably break down. I mean, I have 35-ish miles, I think, in them. And the midsole is just like, I feel like it's like disintegrating a little bit. I don't expect these to be really like a viable option past like 50 miles for a race. I think you could still use them. I just like, if you're gonna go race a marathon, I think you've got like up to 50 miles in these, to be honest, right? Which is actually typical for that super premium tier, unfortunately, of super shoes. They just, you know, they sacrifice everything for peak performance in like one race, basically, right? Now, the Sky Tokyo still has that FF Leap. It's actually on the bottom. And then that top layer, let me double check what I wrote down. That top layer is going to be FF Turbo Plus. So I believe that is a PIBA-based foam on the top. Really interesting overall feeling. You get, I would say, like 80% of the propulsion of the Ray, not even close to as much ground feel. Like in the Ray, like it compresses so much. It still compresses and it propels you forward quite a bit. Like it is very responsive, but it comes in a lot more stable package, which is interesting because it's still that ATPU, but I wonder if it's tuned a little bit differently because, you know, especially with the ATPU, the FF Leap on the bottom, I would expect it to be less stable and more chaotic, but it seems to be just a little bit more difficult to compress the foam. And then, you know, maybe, I don't know how far down the FF Blast Turbo goes into the foam or the FF Leap. So I wonder if it cuts down a little bit further, then maybe you're getting a little bit of the stability from there. But I would not call these like stability shoes, but I was surprised at the stability in comparison just because we're using the same foam there on the bottom. I expected it to be a little bit more chaotic and it wasn't. It was actually very, very pleasant. I found that the midsole of the Sky Tokyo was just a little bit more supportive overall. It's not quite as explosive. It's not quite as fast. You can run and like warm up in this shoe. You can't warm up in the Ray. The Ray, you just 100% speed all the time, like just flying in the shoe. I think it's an excellent, excellent choice for especially like shorter, faster, like the mile, the 5K. If you're running those on the road, I don't think it's great for the track, but on the road in a straight line, this shoe is ridiculous. You could do a little bit more, like if the terrain's a little bit more suspect, that's where the Sky Tokyo is gonna work a lot better than the Ray. The other thing I think about is like for a marathon versus a 5K, like the shorter and faster the race, the more I'm leaning towards the Ray. The longer and slower the race, the more I start to lean towards the Sky, right? Not to say that I couldn't race a 5K in the shoe. I absolutely could. I really like this shoe. It's just that this is insane, right? Moving to the outsoles, both of them have the ASICS grip outsoles. Both of them have pretty much the same coverage, right? Now the Sky is for the stride runner. The Sky is supposed to bias probably a little bit more of the forefoot striker, and the Ray is the same, right? So you just have very little coverage there in the heel and midfoot area even. I just feel like, you know, the ASICS grip does a really good job when the ground's wet still. You're just missing a lot of coverage on the bottom to where I just worry that those were going to get eaten up depending on your stride type, right? You can see that, again, the Ray is already starting to just get kind of destroyed there on the bottom anywhere that the foam is exposed. But from a pure grip standpoint, I really like the grip on both of these shoes, and I think they do a good job. Oh, one thing I should point out, both of these have carbon fiber plates. I believe that the Sky Tokyo, though, has a full length versus the Ray actually only has a 3/4 length. So something to think about there. Now, as far as my pick between the two, you know, again, I think I kind of already said this, but I think it just comes down to the race. I think like if I had to just choose one, I'm risking it with the Ray. Like, this shoe is really special. It is crazy, crazy, crazy fast, crazy explosive. And so long as I'm on the road and I have like a 99% surety that like the road's not going to be too crazy as far as like running at an angle or running uphill too much, downhill too much, I think that the Ray would be the option. But if I have any doubt in my mind on the stability of the terrain and things along those lines, that's where I do think that the Sky Tokyo is just going to shine a little bit more, because it has a lot more stability, and it still gives you like 80% of the responsiveness of the Ray. I don't think you could go wrong with the Sky Tokyo. I do think you could go wrong with the Ray though, right? So like, it's one of those situations where if in doubt, go with the safer option. But if you're trying to chase that PR and just you're gonna risk it for the biscuit, then the Ray is probably the one that you choose there. So, but yeah, just some final thoughts. ASICS absolutely crushing it in 2026. I might end up testing the Edge. I'm not sure. I'm buying a lot of shoes this year, and usually when I buy a shoe, it tends to be pretty expensive, so it is hurting the wallet. Because I bought both of these shoes. That's $570 right there, right? But I'm very, very curious to see what the Edge feels like. I actually didn't wear the Edge in last year, the Paris either. I just had the Sky, and so be curious to see how it stacks up, especially this year as they switched the foams. But ASICS absolutely crushing it. Really excited to see what's to come from them in 2026. And yeah, there's the comparison. So if you watch this far and you're not yet subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button, turning on those notifications, and leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what I could be doing better, what questions you have about these shoes, or what other comparisons I could be doing as well. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider using any of the affiliate links in the description below. I have affiliate links both to Fuel Goods as well as Wallaco. Wallaco is your go-to for any of like running tights, is kind of my go-to for them. So the distance half tights and full tights are my favorite. Tons of storage to carry your phone, gels, keys, whatever you need. And then with Fuel Goods, if you use RadDad at checkout, you actually get 10% off. So if you're already in the market for any running gels, hydration, anything along those lines, and they have it on Fuel Goods, please consider using that affiliate link and using RadDad at checkout, as it'll give you a discount and it'll give me a kickback so I can continue to invest back into this channel. But yeah, just to wrap us up, I'm going to leave you with a question, which is, what has been your go-to super shoe from ASICS? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.